Hi, I'm Chuck Dorsett for Weaver Leather Supply, and this is the Leather Element. If you've got a good question for us or a good idea for a leather element, drop it in the comment box below. Also, if you want to know when our videos release, just click your notifications. You'll know exactly when these come out. So we get a question all the time, and I'm going to do my best to get a good answer here. Now, this is aimed more for the new folks, but experienced folks, hang tight because we're going to look at the creative side of these. Okay, so here's our question. I'm new to leathercraft. What punches do I need to get started? Okay, well, let's start right here. I work for Weaver. I've got 3 full boards back there. If I didn't, I wouldn't have those. So what I've done is I've added up all of our tools. English point, round end, oblong, round hole, and corner knife. That's about 50 tools. Okay, we add these together, that's about $3,000. I'm a leather crafter. I can't just call the banker and say, hey, let's move some money around, right? We don't have to. We can start with just a few of these, and as needed, we can build. So again, I'm going to do my best to help out here. Let's jump over to our punch table, see if I can. Let's start with 2 common tools, our English point and our round end. Now, as a side note, if you're new to leathercraft, I don't want to punch directly onto my marble. We get this question all the time. Something like my chisel, it isn't going all the way through the leather. Most likely, that's the problem. But if we punch straight to this, we're going to tear up our tools, our marble, and we're not going to get a good punch. So let's punch everything on our poly board. Now, with me, that's slippery and that is going to make me crazy. How about let's add just a piece of scrap leather? Perfect. That doesn't move around at all. Okay, so over to our English point. This is actually shaped this way because this is going to go through a buckle. That gives us a tab on the end. Now, if I could only get 1 English point, I'd go with my 1.5 inch, simply because belts and straps, such a staple to the leather crafter, like say a briefcase strap. But also too, we can work down with these, but we can't work up. Here's what I'm talking about. So let's punch a 1.5 inch. Look at that. Now, another side note, I've not used another punch in my shop in 8 years. If you buy Weaver, you buy that tool once. Very clean. Okay, so anyway, there's our English point. Well, how's this going to do if we work down from this? Here's a 1 inch strap. Well, it's not great, but it's not bad. In all honesty, I could cut that with a knife, but all told, it's going to work for us. Now, if I could get a second tool, I'd go with my 1 inch. Here's a 1 inch strap. Good. There's a nice English point. How about if we move down from this? Well, it's not bad. It looks pretty good, but the point is, I would probably buy the 1.5 inch again for our belt strap, a basic strap width or a belt width, but then my number 1 or my 1 inch, that seems to work well for me. Okay, so over to our round end punch. Now, these are not absolutely necessary, but first off, I love a round end punch on the back of a belt. Very professional, but also too, if we've got a strap that's not going through a buckle, say we're going to rivet this onto, say, the gusset on a purse or briefcase, then a nice round end looks good. And again, we can work down with these. So 1.5 inch strap, 1.5 inch round end. There we go. Not very perfect, but nonetheless, we get the idea. Okay, so let's take this down to a 1 inch. Well, actually, that's not bad. That looks good. It's very clean. Okay, so the second tool, if I could get another, again, down to 1 inch, again, because that's such a common strap size in my shop. Well, let's do a 1 inch strap. There we go. Looks pretty good. Let's jump down to a 3/4 inch strap. And again, not bad. Actually, that looks pretty good. But also, jumping back over here, one more point. I like to taper belts. I think that's a great look. Allows us to put a smaller buckle on a wider belt. Well, if you notice right here, and this is in one of our shop tricks, I've got a line 2/3 of the distance from the edge to the center. So therefore, on my tapers, I'm going to put that point at the end of my cut, and I'm going to put that line, there we go, right on the edge of my leather. So therefore, I get a clean, professional cut every time, very symmetrical. Okay, next up, oblongs. If we're going to add a buckle to a project, we're going to need an oblong punch. Well, technically that's not true. We could always simply punch 2 holes and cut between them. It's not great, but it's going to work. An oblong is going to make that very fast and very clean. Now with our oblongs, if I could only choose one of these, I'd probably go with a smaller size, the 1 inch, because these are the opposite of our other 2 punches. On these we can go up and not down. Here's what I'm talking about. Now the rule of thumb is, whatever strap width, that's our oblong, 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch. Well, say I've got a 1 inch. Well, that's going to cover most of my smaller straps. But say I need to jump up to a belt strap. Okay, there's one step. Now let's step this out. There we go. Now that's not as clean and pretty as I would like. I'm on camera, I'm talking. Yeah, if we're in our shop, we can actually get that pretty accurate and we could stretch that out as long as we want. So if I could only get one, I think my 1 inch is going to be the choice there. Now 2 points to our oblongs. Well, right here, this is a 1/2 inch. Notice the width of the cut. The tool maker takes into account that we're going to be using a smaller buckle and a larger buckle. Secondly, we think about buckles alone when we're talking oblongs. There are all kinds of ways we can use an oblong in our shop. All right, next up, let's jump over to our main table, talk about one of my favorites, our corner knives. We're going to talk about our corner knives because to me this is one of the best products Weaver has ever brought in. We'll go into the reasons why. But a side note for the folks that are new, we're jumping over to our poundo board now. This is for cutting our leather. When we cut on this, our blade actually sinks a little bit into the surface. So therefore, we get a very even, smooth, clean cut. Now the reason we're over here, these are not dry punches. These are knives. We're not going to use a mallet. Now with these, the reason I like these so much, for so long, in fact until recently, we had one corner punch on the market and it was about that big. It was virtually useless for everything. We now have 6 sizes. Now to me, it's going to depend on what we work on as to which size we need the most. I typically go with the largest. In fact, right here, we just did this in a video. I've used the largest round corner on this and I've reversed that out. So therefore, that makes a good curve. I tend to work mostly on larger projects, purse, pouch, bag, maybe saddle bags. So therefore the largest, the 40 millimeter is going to work for me. But really, if you work more on, say, watch bands or wallets or luggage tags, smaller pieces, maybe something around a 9 millimeter or maybe a 12 millimeter is going to work. But these are so clean and easy. In fact, why don't we go ahead and add corners to this piece? I've got this taped together with our double-sided tape. And how clean and easy is that? No kidding. I love these tools. All right, one more we need to talk about. Typically, our revolving or our rotary punch is the center of our shop, and I'm going to use this on every project. We've actually got 6 sizes of holes, more sizes than I will ever use. I think I use 3. This is a great tool. One-handed operation, we don't need a mallet, we don't need a punch board. The only downside to this is if I want to punch a hole in the middle of a project or a panel. I think right there our depth, the throat there is about 1.5 inches. I'm not going to make it. So we're going to have to jump over to a drive punch or a round hole punch. Now we've got a bunch of sizes of these, but I boiled it down to the 2 that I use the most. So 1/8 of an inch, that's perfect for rivet holes. And in fact, you'll notice I tape all of my tools, all my common size tools with bright orange tape. It makes them easy to find. The next one, 3/16. This is going to be good for our Chicago screws, our conchos, and our lace. So I might say we need to get 2 drive punches. Okay, last one. We're going to jump over to our pattern table. Let's get creative with our punches. I promise I am going to stop talking here in a minute, but this is one of my favorite parts of leathercraft. Let's take some of the most mundane tools, a little scrap. Who knows what's going to come out? Now the 2-inch in each of the punches, I rarely ever use these, if at all. I don't work in the larger products like, say, tack and saddle. But the 2 smaller, these are both 3/8 inch, round end and English point. We can do so many things with these. Well, first off, my favorite, scalloped edge. I love to use that. English point, round end. How about right there, we mix up our stamps. Pouch flap. That is a cool little corner. For our period folks, we can absolutely punch out scales, small tags, maker's marks, and if we really get creative, so many ways we can go here. I don't know which I like better, right? I love the filigree cut. Well, here's one of my favorites. I've yet to use this on a project, but I'm certain someone out there is going to find a place for it. How about a dog bone? Oh, isn't that cool? A filigree cut? Or there's our cutout. And right here, coasters, another staple to us leather crafters. Scalloped edge, double scalloped edge. So many ways we can go with these, and I believe this is just scratching the surface. So pick up whatever tools you have, a little scrap, play with it, and I bet you'll be surprised by your own creativity. I feel like I can't say this loud enough or often enough. Leathercraft does not have to be expensive to get into. In fact, great example. We just went from 50 tools down to 5. And those 5 tools, we can do so many things with those. As we progress, we can add tools. But right off the bat, we don't have to break the budget. I hope this is good information for you. Thanks for taking time to watch The Leather Element. Good luck with your projects.